Good afternoon. In case you've just joined us, it's a landmark day not only in the history of Jammu and Kashmir but in the history of India. The status of Jammu and Kashmir, as many had predicted over the last couple of weeks, has been altered fundamentally, perhaps forever. Article 370, which gave Jammu and Kashmir its special status within India, one of the terms on the basis of which Jammu and Kashmir became a part of India, has been scrapped. Jammu and Kashmir, as a result of today's presidential decree, is no longer a state. Jammu and Kashmir becomes a union territory, in fact 2 union territories. No special status to Jammu and Kashmir after this. This is all a huge bombshell, part of an effort by this government to, among other things, end the dream of autonomy that many in Jammu and Kashmir actually had. But the decisions and the reasons which have actually been given are significant. Why has the government gone and scrapped Article 370? Well, firstly, it's been scrapped by a presidential order. It's a huge move for Jammu and Kashmir. The article gives Jammu and Kashmir its special status. Now, what does the government plan to do now? It plans reorganization of Jammu and Kashmir as a union territory. Jammu and Kashmir will have a union territory with an assembly, and the government is moving to bring a bill on the bifurcation of Jammu and Kashmir. So there will be 2 union territories. Jammu and Kashmir is one of them. Ladakh is the other one. 2 lieutenant governors are proposed, not just a single governor, as is the case now in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, which effectively ceases to exist. So there will be 2 lieutenant governors, one for Jammu and Kashmir, one for Ladakh. There was chaos in Parliament after this was announced. After Article 370 was scrapped, the opposition has said that the government acted surreptitiously, like thieves in the night. All right.
मैं प्रस्ताव करता हूं कि जम्मू और कश्मीर पुनर्गठन विधेयक 2019 को पुनर्स्थापित करने की अनुमति दी जाए। महोदय, मैं प्रस्ताव करता हूं कि जम्मू और कश्मीर आरक्षण अधिनियम 2004 और संशोधन करने वाले विधेयक को पुनर्स्थापित करने की परमिशन दी जाए। 370 की छाया में तीन परिवार ने जम्मू कश्मीर को इतने सालों तक लूटा है। विपक्ष के नेता ने कहा कि धारा 370 ने कश्मीर को भारत के साथ जोड़ा है। माननीय सभापति महोदय, ये सत्य नहीं है। महाराजा हरि सिंह द्वारा 27 अक्टूबर 1947 को अब जम्मू और कश्मीर साइन किया गया। मैं फिर से इसी कहना चाहता हूं, 27 अक्टूबर 1947 को और धारा 370 1949 में आई। जम्मू कश्मीर छूटने के बाद 2 साल तक गुलाम नबी साहब ने कहा कि धारा 370 ऐतिहासिक है। मैं इसके विवाद में जाना नहीं चाहता, मगर मैं जो बिल लेकर आया हूं वो भी ऐतिहासिक है, इतिहास बनाने वाला बिल है।
Well, joining us now, Sameer Patil and Vivek Reddy, both of them continue being with us. Thanks very much for joining us once again. Vivek, let me come to you first. I understand what the goal of the government is over here. There are lots of reasons which have been spelled out by Amit Shah and others, explaining how the abrogation of Article 370 and the bifurcation of the state will be good for the state. It will result in employment. It will result in new opportunities. My question is this: how are you going to convince people on the ground in Jammu and Kashmir, particularly in Kashmir, that this is a good idea? How do you achieve that?
Well, I think over time, Vishnu, we will find that this huge reform that has taken place will reduce terrorism, will blend Jammu and Kashmir into the greater.
How will it reduce terrorism?
Absolutely, because it is now under Union territory control, and the decisions regarding cross-border terrorism, the decisions regarding the internal rebellion or a sense, an atmosphere of provocation that exists within Jammu and Kashmir, Now, when once it comes under the Union Territories rule, I think all this will reduce.
No, but Vivek,
And upon reduction of all this,
Vivek, some
ensure-
people would perhaps disagree with you and say the opposite. The fact that in Kashmir, a lot of people would be deeply uncomfortable with this move. That's a fact. Let's accept that is a fact. In Kashmir, a lot of people would be deeply distrustful of this move. In an environment
it's
like
true.
that, how can you say that terrorism or the threat of terrorism will actually, go away, or it'll be better than what it is now? I would say that the
Well-
opposite might be true.
Well, Vishnu, opportunities will open up for the people of Kashmir.
What
because of the
opportunities?
larger integration of Kashmir into India.
What
And this will reduce
what
the influence.
opportunities?
You will have opportunities of jobs. You will have people coming in to invest in Kashmir. You will have so many other reforms, so many other changes.
How will you
that
persuade
take place in Kashmir
Vivek? How will you
because of-
persuade people to participate economically
Well, as these
in Kashmir?
opportunities grow out,
Why would
Vishnu,
people
as these
want to
opportunities
necessarily come into a
Yeah.
state where there's a real danger, Vivek, of them being seen as outsiders, of them as being part of the challenge or the group which has resulted in Kashmir losing its special status? Why would
Well,
people want
as
to come in?
people- Well, as people will find, Vishnu, whenever these reforms are brought in, whenever changes are brought in, at the initial stage, it will be viewed with some amount of consternation, some amount of suspicion.
Yes.
But as opportunities open up, as the society gets open to larger India due to this integration, and as there is more economic investment in Jammu and Kashmir because of the scrapping of Article 35A and the special place status under 370, I think that is when the people of Jammu and Kashmir will really see the logic behind it.
Okay.
Will really see that it is in their interest. And
But that I accept is very much the hope. But Samir Patil, let me ask you this.
To blend with India,
Samir,
than to remain an exclusive part apart from it.
you see, Vivek, the problem is that we're already for decades trying to have all sorts of strategies to blend the people, as you mentioned, of Jammu and Kashmir more with India, to integrate them, to offer opportunities,
Yes.
to offer jobs.
Yes.
I think the question now is what is the micro level strategy that's going to actually achieve that? But let me ask Samir that question. Samir, beyond the broader political moves which have been made, which has altered the political landscape, how on the ground are you going to bring people from outside to invest in Kashmir, in a state which has been heavily hit by terrorism, insurgency, all sorts of problems? How would you do that? Why would people want to go in a bigger way?
Vishnu, I always believe that the policy in Kashmir is to be followed is a combination of carrot and sticks approach. I think for a very long time we have been trying to have a good balance of both the approaches. I think in the last few years we have seen more of a sticks approach rather than carrots. And I think now that the Article 370 and other special status provisions have been scrapped, I think the government will have to now focus purely on the carrot approach. Now, obviously, apart from the political outreach, and I do not mean political outreach with just the separatists, which stand as a spent or irrelevant force
Correct.
in the state's political discourse, I would believe that there has to be an outreach to the students, to the religious scholars in the society, because ultimately, if you see, the problem of anti-India sentiments in Kashmir will not be addressed by just the abrogation of the special status. In fact, there are some who argue that this problem will in fact be now amplified. So there needs to be an approach which will target at least these two categories to make sure that there are some favorable constituencies in the valley who can respond to the state central government's initiative. And I think the appointment of Dineshwar Sharma as interlocutor by the government 2 years back was a right move in that direction, but obviously it was not followed through. I would say that now, apart from Dineshwar Sharma, I think there need to be more interlocutors who will reach out to these various segments of the local population, make sure them understand, that what it means to be a part of a larger mainstream Indian democracy project, and make sure that they are on board. I think enough damage has already been done by the kind of treatment which has been given to the mainstream Indian leaders, and I think the state will now need to be on an overdrive to correct that particular thing.
All right, just be there with us. Let's try and bring in some reactions, political reactions from Jammu and Kashmir. A statement from Omar Abdullah, Vice President of the National Conference, also former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, on the scrapping of Article 370 and the other decisions. He says the government of India's unilateral and shocking decisions today are a total betrayal of the trust that the people of Jammu and Kashmir had reposed in India when the state acceded to it in 1947. The decisions will have far-reaching and dangerous consequences. This is an aggression against the people of the state, as had been warned by an all-parties meeting in Srinagar yesterday. The government of India has resorted to deceit and stealth in recent weeks to lay the ground for these disastrous decisions. Our darkest apprehensions have unfortunately come true after the government of India and its representatives in Jammu and Kashmir lied to us that nothing major was planned. The announcement was announced after the entire state, particularly the Kashmir Valley, was turned into a garrison. So he's spoken a lot more, but Vivek, I wanted to ask you about that, because day before yesterday, in fact, yesterday and day before, on 2 consecutive days, the governor, Satyapal Malik, told the PDP, he told journalists, and he told the National Conference that he was not aware of any plan. He wasn't aware of any change in the status of 35A. And yet you have something like this happening. So is this governor without any power, or was he effectively not being truthful in answering questions from political leaders on the ground?
Well, Vishnu, I think the governor's status is limited. He cannot talk about future development. And this is essentially within the prerogative of the president. The president decides in the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers as to what future Jammu and Kashmir must have, and its path to that future is structured by the President of India under our Constitution. So the governor would have been incapable of giving the inkling or a peep into the future, because you never know how these will pan out. So I don't think the governor was in any manner capable of making any statement regarding the policies of the
but then why did he feel it necessary to actually say, Vivek, that look, he's not aware of anything substantive in terms of a political change? Here you've got the biggest, most substantive political change we've seen perhaps in any state ever, right?
Well, the governor is right, Vishnu. The governor is right, because
why did he actually?
Yeah, the buck does not stop with the governor. Governor is not responsible for stating as to what is the political future of the country.
Just one moment, Vivek. We just need to go across to the Rajya Sabha, listen in to Rakesh Rama. Let's listen.
आज 5 अगस्त 2019 को हमने थिंग ऑफ पास्ट बनाकर सदन से बाहर जाएंगे. धन्यवाद.
ऑनरेबल श्री पी चिदम्बरम.
Sir, as many of my colleagues have said, this is a very sad day. It's more than sad. In the constitutional history of India, this will be a black day. I have no that I'm going to persuade anyone from the Treasury benches to listen to us or to appreciate our argument or to change their mind or to defer this bill. It will be an absolute exercise in futility. If I stand up to speak and perform this exercise in futility, it is because I speak through you in this house to a future generation of Indians. Momentarily, you think you have scored a victory. The drum beats that you will hear on the streets will certainly encourage you to believe that you have scored a signal victory, or as one of the honorable members said, you have corrected, quote unquote, a so-called injustice of history. You are wrong, and history will prove you to be wrong, and future generations will realize what a grave mistake this House is making today. So let me deal with a few things and close my speech. I certainly don't have the heart to speak today. A few days ago I wrote that this is the house of that is, Lok Sabha is the house of the people, the Council of States, the Rajya Sabha is the Council of States. Our foremost duty is to protect the rights of states. And by protecting the rights of states, protect the rights of the people of those states. Day after day, we fail to protect the rights of states. We have passed numerous bills which are on the concurrent list. There has been no consultation with any state. Yet we pass those bills completely oblivious of the rights of states. I wrote that we are reducing states to municipal administrations. Today, you have gone a further step. You are not even reducing states to municipal administrations. You are making a states, and you will make states your vassal. You will reduce states to colonies, and you think you are doing something which is constitutional. So be that as it may. What have you done today? You are passing an order under Article 370 by which you are repealing the earlier application order and making a new application order. Ostensibly, the purpose is to amend Article 70, Subarticle D, and substitute the words Legislative Assembly for the words Constituent Assembly. Well, I'm sure some wise men in the law ministry may have told you that that's possible. I have no quarrel with anyone's wisdom. I could be wrong and they could be right. But I think you've forgotten that you cannot modify Article 370 by an order under Article 370. Article 370 enables you to modify such other provisions of the Constitution. It's beyond my comprehension how Article 370 order can be used to modify Article 370. I leave it there. I'm certainly not competent to hold a class in law. I may be wrong. But it's beyond my comprehension how Article 370 can be used to modify Article 370 when the language of the article is you can modify other provisions of the Constitution. You're doing another thing. You're passing 2 resolutions today. Or hoping you will pass. I'm sure you will pass it. And the first resolution Article 370 itself will cease to exist. I know this is your manifesto promise. You said we will repeal Article 370. By this resolution, you think you are repealing Article 370. But in repealing Article 370, you are unleashing forces which you cannot control. I have dealt with the state of Jammu and Kashmir. The Honorable Home Minister today deals with that state. More than anyone else, he will appreciate what I'm saying. Yes, there are in the state of Jammu and Kashmir a number of young men who have taken to violence, who preach secession, and who want to split J&K from the Union of India. No one condones their action. No one supports their action. The Congress party and every other party is implacably opposed to those young men. But there were thousands of other young men, for reasons which they think are good, pelted stones. Thousands of other young men, for reasons which they think are good, called hartals. I have interacted with them. I read a delegation of Parliament along with Shri Arun Jaitley. When I first visited Jammu and Kashmir as Home Minister, they called a hartal. The whole state was shut down. But when I led a parliamentary delegation along with Shri Arun Jaitley and many other distinguished members of Parliament, the whole state turned out to receive us. Thousands and thousands of people came to see us. Thousands came and represented to us. And I had stated what I had gathered from that experience. It was an eye-opener for all of us. Not all in Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, the overwhelming majority in Jammu and Kashmir doesn't want secession, doesn't want to leave the Union of India. I believe, you may disagree with me, I believe they want more autonomy. Now, whether you want to give them autonomy or not is the government's prerogative. But I believe they want autonomy. Now, what are you doing by repealing Article 370? I genuinely fear, Honorable Home Minister, I genuinely fear you are pushing the thousands and thousands of young men from this column to join the other column of a few hundred. I sincerely hope it will not happen, but if it happens, you will rue this day when you repealed Article 370. Sir, the second thing you're doing is, you're dismembering a state. You think you're doing it to Jammu and Kashmir. But what you're doing to Jammu and Kashmir, using these provisions, misinterpreting these provisions, in fact, I could go to say mischievously interpreting these provisions, what you are doing to Jammu and Kashmir can be done to any other state.
Yes. Correct.
Please tell me why the mechanism that you have devised to dismember Jammu and Kashmir will not apply to any other state. Please convince us that Derek O'Brien and I are wrong. All you have to do is dismiss an elected government, dissolve the state legislature, promulgate president's rule, declare parliament to be the state legislature for the time being, and divide that state. My friend from Orissa, I told him, what stops a future government from carving out a union territory for the KBK districts? What stops a future government from creating a union territory or a new state in North Bengal? What stops a future government from dividing Tamil Nadu? My friends from the AIADMK are here. They don't realize what you're doing. The same provisions, the same method, the same resolutions can be applied to any state. But I think in doing it for Kashmir, you have made a fatal legal error. I won't tell you what the legal error is now. You will discover it in due course. But my greater concern is what you are doing today sends a very, very wrong signal to all the states of this country. Sir, all I can do is appeal to the Honorable Home Minister. Even at this late stage, stop, pause, reflect on what we are doing. If you are determined to repeal Article 370, I can do nothing about it. It's between you and those who want Article 370 and the Supreme Court of India. But the other thing that you're doing, dismembering Jammu and Kashmir, for heaven's sake, in the name of the people of India, I appeal to you, don't do that. Don't dismember that state. It's one state. It came to us as one state. I don't want to recall history or those tall personalities who brought Jammu and Kashmir to accede to India. Some names continue to reverberate. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patil, V.P. Menon, Gopal Sami Iyengar. They brought Jammu and Kashmir under an instrument of accession. That is history. That is a historical document. It's as important as the Constitution of India. But if you wish to ignore history, if you wish to ignore the compact made with Maharaja Hari Singh, if you wish to ignore what Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was able to achieve in those difficult days, it's your privilege. Do what you like. What you're doing is wrong. What you're doing is wrong. Repealing Article 35A is wrong. Amending the Constitution, invoking Article 370 is wrong. Doing away with Article 370 is wrong. But do all those wrongs. Do all those wrongs. I'm willing to, who am I? I'm willing to tolerate all those wrongs. But for heaven's sake, don't dismember Jammu and Kashmir. Don't do that cardinal sin. Don't commit that monumental blunder. Sir, shortly after I was born, this country became free. This country is free, democratic, republican, liberal, secular. All of us who are below the age of 70, all of you who are below the age of 70 were born in such a country. Today I despair. How long will this country remain the country envisaged by the founding fathers of our Constitution? How long will it remain truly free, truly democratic, truly republican, truly liberal, truly secular, and truly a union of states? India, that is Bharat, is a union of states. What you are doing is destroying that union of states, and what you do today will have catastrophic consequences in the future. If you know what you're doing, do it. If you know what you're doing, do it. But please remember, you will bear responsibility for the catastrophic consequences of this action. I stoutly oppose what the government is doing, and we will sit here, listen to you, and vote against what you are doing.
Thank you, Mr. P. Chidambaram. Please. Sri Prashant Nanda.
Thank you, sir. This is a memorable day, and this memorable day waited for 19 years, when Honorable Atal Bihari Vajpayee became the Prime Minister, the journalist asked them, it was in your manifesto for abrogation of Article 370, what are you going to do it? He said, I have a fractured mandate and I will wait when people of India will give us the proper mandate to abrogate this Article 370. Now, I must say it memorial because the people of India majoritarily, with a thumping majority, has endorsed by their voting to Srijukta Narendra Modi ji to be the Prime Minister. Indirectly, they have voted in favor of Article 370 abrogation. क्या नहीं किया हमने 70 साल? Out of 29 states, 28 states के लोग पूछते गए, जब हमने इतना कुछ करते हैं उन लोगों के साथ, पर हमारे आर्मी लोग क्यों मरते हैं? जब उधर बाढ़ आती है तो हमारे आर्मी लोग क्या नहीं किया? बदले में उनको क्या मिला? पथराव, गोली। और हम अपने स्टेट में हमारे जो लोग मारे गए उनका डेड बॉडी लेते गए एयरपोर्ट को, यही हुआ। क्यों? सर है हमारा कश्मीर, अगर कश्मीरी हमारा सर है तो एब्रोगेशन ऑफ 370 में सर कटता नहीं है, सर उठता है। आज सर उठने का दिन है, इसलिए मेमोरेबल डे है। 70 साल में क्या हुआ हम आज भी मानते हैं। कश्मीरी लोग जो उधर रहने वाले लोग हैं, दे लव इंडिया, दे वांट टू बी इंडियंस।
मिस्टर प्रशांत, कंक्लूड।
हाँ, कंक्लूड करता हूं। लेकिन इन आतंकवादियों ने, अलगाववादियों ने ऐसा माहौल बनाया, ऐसा डरा के उनको रखा है। हम लोग सोचते हैं जो आतंकवादी लोग करते हैं, हम लोग सोचते हैं वही शायद कश्मीरीवादी हैं, वो कश्मीरियों नहीं है। तो इसीलिए आज ये जो एब्रोगेशन बिल लाया गया है, इसमें से एक संदेश आ जाता है। संदेश यही है कि ये कश्मीर में रहने वाले आतंकियों, 4 तुम पे लगेंगे, 4 हम पे लगेंगे, 2 आंसू तुम पे बहेंगे, 2 आंसू हम पे बहेंगे।
धन्यवाद।
All right, so lots happening in Parliament today. We heard P. Chidambaram speaking a little while earlier on, and a lot of very hard-hitting points made by the former Home Minister to the present Home Minister, where he said that, look, what you are doing is something that's going to affect the rest of the country. He said, convince me that you won't do it elsewhere. You'll carve out a union territory, you'll dissolve the assembly. It can take place in North Bengal. It can take place in the KBK area of Orissa. What you are doing today sends a wrong signal to all states. He says that it's the biggest point made by P. Chidambaram had to do not so much with Article 370. Of course, he opposes the abrogation of 370, but the bifurcation of the state. He says that that is something which sends all the wrong signals and is against the character of India. Let's go across now to NDTV's Nazir Masoodi in Srinagar. Nazir, you know, this morning the lines in Srinagar were still down. The landlines were down. Broadband was off. It wasn't a curfew, but there were restrictions on movement. How are people finding out about what's happened in Parliament? Just word of mouth?
Well, this sense of disbelief what exactly has happened today in the Parliament, the way Home Minister, announced that and read the statement that Article 370 has been scrapped and now bringing a bill about reorganization of the state. It is completely people are in a disbelief what exactly is happening. And we heard the speech of the, Rajri bench talking about the terrorism and other things, stone pelting. That is the reason for the, scrapping Article 370 and reorganizing state, making Kashmir a union territory. Had that been the case, then Punjab would have also become the union territory. Then there's a problem in the northeast, then in the and also where they had the deal with the Nagas as well and the system. I'm actually joined by PDP youth leader Wahid Bara and get their response, and it will be your first response on camera. Wahid, what is your first response?
Well, this is really unacceptable decision. This is a breach of trust with Kashmiris that has happened at the time of accession, and this is unacceptable to everyone in Kashmir. And and unilaterally they have taken a decision. We'll fight it legally, politically, whatever way we can, democratically also. But it's not acceptable to the people of Jammu and Kashmir.
Mehbooba Mufti has made a statement. She tweeted. I don't know how she tweeted because there's no internet facility whatsoever. But the fact is, every political leader is saying it is a historical disaster that has happened.
I think what this conveys is that at a time when accession happened, people of Kashmir who joined the Union of India, they were given certain constitutional commitments, and you're withdrawing such constitutional commitments. It's a breach of trust with the people of Kashmir, and it's also proving a lot of historical decisions that have went wrong, and also the way this decision was scrapped shows the hegemony of the central government, and it is completely, you can see the deceptive calm. It's a curfew-like situation everywhere. People are not going to accept such a decision.
All the leaders have been put under house arrest, including your leader Mehbooba Mufti, former chief minister, and you were the alliance of the BJP just a year back, and Umar Abdullah put under house arrest, and almost all entire leadership.
I think the first time
the mainstream leaders like who have Z plus security, who have been at the hit list of militants, being put under house arrest, what does this convey?
The first time mainstream was treated as a separatist was 1987, and you saw the ramification of it. The way government is today dealing with it, it's fighting with its own tools with the mainstream people who believed in the idea of India, in the constitution, in the democracy of India, in the secular credentials of the country are being punished for the same reason today. That is really unfortunate.
Had you ever anticipated that the centre is going to take such a drastic step,
Never.
Only scrapping Article 370, which has become questionable because many say it is a legislation with part of the basic structure of the constitution. How can it be scrapped through an executive order? And also then reorganizing the state, trifurcating the state.
Never ever. I mean, not only Article 370, 35, also the way state has been bifurcated, the way state has been, made union territory. It disempowers everyone in Jammu and Kashmir who believes in the idea of India and the democracy of this country. It really disempowers every one of us.
So, Vishnu, clearly here people saying the state is state which has the special constitutional status, its own flag, its own constituency, constitution suddenly is made a union territory if that bill is passed by the parliament. So it is a shock. People are shocked beyond words. There's curfew in all parts of the valley. Internet has been snapped. As you were yesterday here, it was shut yesterday. Then the mobile phones were shut. Then the landline and the broadband has been shut. There's no communication. We can't even make calls. I tried to go and meet Umar Abdullah and Mehbooba Mufti. I went visited, tried to reach there, but their houses have been completely locked by the security, and they said you cannot go, no one from there can come out. So clearly a very difficult situation in Kashmir. It's not just about if there's a violence and if there's a protest, and since everyone is actually appealing people to maintain calm, and that should actually happen. There should not be any violence, there should not be any disturbance, and leaders here say that look, those
Nazir, are there reports of violence? Are there reports of unrest at this stage, or has this massive security presence ensured that at least that's not happening for now, and we just hope that there is no violence going forward?
We hope there's no, and so far there are no reports. But as I said, getting information is very, very difficult. We have to meet physically people and get the information.
Sure.
You cannot make a call. You can't go anywhere. This is a patch, as you know, this green zone, high security zone in the area near Gupkar, which is better off. Rest of the areas, strict curfew is being enforced. There's complete clampdown. Large number of people have been arrested. But despite that, we can tell you, even before that, people were sensing what is going to happen. They were knowing what is going to happen. Has been shock after the shock. But people maintained calm.
Okay.
They remained patient, and everybody is appealing people and hoping that everything remains normal. Kashmir has seen lot of bloodshed, lot of violence, lot of unrest.
Okay,
Hope
Nazir,
that
1 second.
ends.
I just want to go through a couple of those points on what the state government and the centre actually did to ensure that preparedness was there on the ground. Well, a lot of these are exclusive details we are breaking on NDTV 24/7 for the first time. 11 days ago, the Home Ministry gave officials in Jammu and Kashmir a deadline today, the 5th of August 2019. By 2 p.m. yesterday, the state administration was ready. Senior officials of the Jammu and Kashmir government have told NDTV that the steps on the ground which now exist are unprecedented and that such measures have never taken place since 1971, when India and Pakistan fought a war that resulted in the liberation of East Pakistan. It all began with the deployment of CRPF personnel. 430 companies of CRPF Jawans were deployed in their positions by early evening yesterday. That means in all 43,000 Jawans. Now we are told the numbers are actually substantially more than that. There have been further additions and there were existing soldiers as well. But on the ground, a decision had also been taken to remove mobile broadband services by late last night. The goal was very clear: control the flow of information, prevent rumors to ensure that there is no violent reaction. Satellite phones, which have been widely distributed to security forces, and wireless communications continue to form the backbone of the communications grid at the moment. To deal with the large-scale breakdown in law and order, with riots being the biggest concern, 60 additional special executive magistrates have been deployed. They were described to me as mobile magistrates, empowered to make speedy arrests and assist security forces. Now, those arrested in the greater Srinagar area will be housed in at least 6 temporary jails which have been prepared with large-scale arrests in mind. Government doctors across the state who are not on duty have been ordered to report for any eventuality. Though access to hospitals is being strictly regulated, only 1 patient and 1 attendant. Guest houses have been sealed after Amarnath Yatris and tourists were ordered to leave last Friday, with security forces citing an imminent terror threat. And perhaps for the first time ever, the state administration in Srinagar ordered outstation journalists to move out of their hotels and shift into a centrally located hotel in the heart of Srinagar, in the green zone, which is heavily protected. Government officials say that this was done to ensure the safety of journalists in the area. Now, we are told that banks have enough cash, fuel stocks are plentiful. However, the possibility of curfew, and that's already taken place in many parts of the state, means that banks are shut, fuel stations will be shut as well, and ATMs will only have so much money available. Asked how long this security clampdown will continue, senior government officials have told us, expect this to be a long haul. This might continue till the 15th of August, Independence Day. For now, quite clearly, it's wait and watch. So that's how the situation on the ground is being handled. Let's go back to Vivek Reddy and Samir Patil. Vivek, one point that keeps coming up: how does the situation on the line of control justify the political decisions which have taken place today?
Well, I think it is not the situation on the line of control alone that has resulted in these decisions. Kashmir has had a long history of turbulence. And that one aspect or one reason for that turbulence is the interference of Pakistan in the affairs of Kashmir. But on the whole, Kashmir had to be integrated with India. That was a political call to be taken by the government.
The decision to form Jammu and Kashmir as a separate union territory, one of the reasons in that note which we've all reported was the security situation on the line of control. What guarantee is there that that security situation will actually improve? A lot of people will argue that perhaps it would actually worsen.
Well, in our constitution, Vishnu, we have the states and the union territories separately casted and separately defined. And the union territories are territories which are to be administered by the union. There is more direct control of the union. If it is a state territory, there is exclusive state federal control that operate. I think this control of the union, as is being undertaken in Delhi over certain aspects, and as is being undertaken in other union territories, is very essential for the center to have more control. I think upon such a union territory being declared.
So this is about the center having control over states, right? So therefore what Mr. Chidambaram says, what you are doing today sends a wrong signal to all states. It challenges the existence of India's federalism. It's a Jammu and Kashmir today which is bifurcated. Tomorrow it could be a North Bengal. It could later on be a KBK block in Odisha. Should the government not assure other political parties, right, that this is not part of a larger trend? Because a lot of political parties, many political leaders have said the same thing today, that where is this all going?
Well, I think Chidambaram must also be aware, Chidambaram must be aware that this sort of a heavy cross-border terrorism and the interference of Pakistan exists only in Kashmir today, in Jammu and Kashmir region today, in the entire India.
No, but how is that interference with Pakistan going to go away if you bifurcate the state or if you get rid of Article 370, which has been done? That's the link which doesn't make sense to me. Can you explain to me how that's going to happen?
Yes, it's very simple. Special status integrates. The removal of special status integrates more broadly Jammu and Kashmir into India. There is a wholesome integration of Jammu and Kashmir into India.
So, but how will that end? How will that end?
This will result
if people on the ground are upset, if people believe that their unique identity has been taken away from them, that the basis of their entry into India is now gone.
Vishnu,
if that is the belief, and if that is what people on the ground, feel triggers terrorism, how is that going to go away?
No, I don't know how, Vishnu, your very query that you take has certain other questions. I don't know why the feeling that the people should not integrate into India, or the feeling that they
no integration, absolutely 110%, no question about that. But Vivek, the point is, the talk about integrating Jammu and Kashmir has been there for every government for several decades, right? The issue of integration is not. I'm not questioning that. I'm just asking the linkage which exists between the line of control, Pakistan, law and order, terrorism, insurgency, and the decision which is taken now. I fail to understand how that's going to go away.
Look. So long as political power is shared with the states, and the states have a say in the future of the state, in the future of that region, I don't think the center can control cross-border terrorism. The center can identify real dangers of law and order.
Okay.
And it is to protect this law and order, it is to protect security, that this is undertaken. Now, what has resulted in, you must also be aware that we are all aware that what has resulted in this cross-border terrorism is that there are islands of terrorism within Jammu and Kashmir. How do you tackle them when you have a separate legislature of a state?
So essentially what you are saying is that political parties in Jammu and Kashmir have failed in tackling insurgency inside.
Yes,
because they don't tackle the situation on the LOC. That's not their purview. And therefore that needs to end. All right, well,
and they have been unable to bite the
they would dispute that.
To bite the bullet.
They would dispute that, but yes, there are several examples when state governments in Jammu and Kashmir have not done enough to tackle insurgency. I take that point. Pratik, rather Samir, I beg your pardon, would you have been happier had the announcement of the removal of 370 and the bifurcation of the state also come with a cohesive package on how people can integrate, how people from outside can go to Jammu and Kashmir, what specific programs there are to encourage economic development? Because at one level this is a macro level political announcement without any substantive policies which actually seem to indicate that this is a good thing for people of Jammu and Kashmir and a good thing for people in the rest of the country.
Vishnu, frankly speaking, I think this would be within the domain of the government on how they come about implementing the specific ideas that they have. I think every government has a different approach when it comes to dealing with Kashmir. So I would leave it to the government and how they want to implement it. But the point that I want to also highlight at this is, which you're also asking my co-panelists. I think what happens on the line of control does form I would say a part of an indirect ecosystem which enables many of the things which happen in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Let's not forget the fact that the fact that the Pakistan army-backed terrorist groups did try to target the Amarnath Yatra, and now that I think that's one definite indication of what is the capability of the groups which come through, which infiltrate through the line of control.
The Amarnath Yatra has been targeted in the past, and you've not had a move to get all Amarnath Yatris to go away.
I agree. I mean, I think in these times, particularly, any successful attack would have definitely, caused a lot. Would have a lot of ramifications.
I mean, and therefore you can't blame the government for taking that move, because it's been done because they have a credible threat. At least they believe that. I'm interrupting you because I need to take a short break. We'll come back with a lot more. A historic day for Jammu and Kashmir, a historic day for India. The status of Jammu and Kashmir has changed. Article 370, which has been scrapped by a presidential order. That's the article which defines, or thus far defined, the grounds on which Jammu and Kashmir had its unique identity within India. And now there's going to be a bifurcation of Jammu and Kashmir. Ladakh one union territory, Jammu and Kashmir another. What does this mean? More after this break.